Hi guys. So I had somebody request a video that I'm gonna try to make real quick. Sorry about the light; it's sort of dark outside, and I'm doing the best I can with the quality. But so the question is, how soon should I date after narcissistic or sociopathic abuse, and some strategies that you can use when you're considering dating again after being in a relationship with one of these pathologically disordered individuals. And so really, how long should you wait? That's going to vary from one person to the next. That's going to vary depending upon how far on the spectrum the narcissist you were with was, how long you were in the relationship. It's really a very individual decision. But one thing is for sure is that before you date, it's really important that you heal. And that means you take some time for self-care. Definitely get a therapist if you can. And if you can't afford to go to a therapist, there are some lower cost online therapy or even a narcissistic abuse coach. They're cheaper than traditional therapists. You can also read quite a few books. There's a lot of workshops you can do. One that's very low cost is Dr. Rhonda Freeman's book on, it's basically the neuroscience of abuse, and it's how to heal your brain. I think that course is, excuse me, like $150 online. I found it incredibly helpful, but for sure, wait for a while until you heal, because dating after narcissistic abuse too quickly can be very re-traumatizing for many of the survivors in the community. So that's one thing for sure, is you need to wait and heal and process. And you can heal by, workshops, therapy, somatic body work, yoga, meditation, rock climbing, running, spending time with safe people, with loving people, with kind people that want the best for you, that are not narcissistic or sociopathic or toxic. If you suffer from either addiction, a lot of people that get into those relationships with these people end up having substance use disorder because they're trying to cope, right, with being with a toxic individual. There are some 12-step programs that you can go to heal from excuse me, from addiction. I'm still getting over this stupid respiratory infection, but and then also CODA is very helpful. That's a program, Codependence Anonymous. That's for people that are, have porous boundaries. For a lot of trauma survivors, they tend to, one sort of adaptation to trauma is to become codependent and people pleasing and accommodating and adapting. And those are quite often, the pathological givers are quite often the people that find themselves in relationships with the pathological takers or narcissists, right? So some of these 12-step programs might be very helpful for you. Another thing is when you do start dating, it's, the dating apps are full of sex addicts and narcissists. I'm not saying that everyone on the dating app is going to fit that criteria, but there's definitely, I would say, I don't know the statistics, but in my anecdotal experience and then speaking with some of the clients, they found that to be the case, is that there seems to be a higher percentage of narcissists or sex addicts on these sites because, the sex addicts are so used to, consuming pornography and sort of, consuming women or men through pornography. So this dating sites are just like another sort of step, a slight step up from that, but like it's all this sort of cyber reality, right? So they tend to gravitate towards those sort of, internet mediums. So, I would say be very careful about that. If you can have friends and family refer somebody that they know really well so that you can make sure that it's somebody who is safe, that is a very good idea, so that there's personal recommendations about this person's character, about the decency of who they are as a human being. And then, another thing is when you start dating, you don't need to come from a place of, sort of, guilty until proven innocent, but do not assume that they are not narcissists or sociopaths. Do not, try to come from a neutral space, but also don't assume that somebody you're dating has a conscience. I think that you almost have to come to a place of like, do they have a conscience or not? And let me see if their actions show that they have empathy, remorse, a conscience. Do their actions match their words? If you're finding that their actions don't match their words, that is a huge red flag. If you feel that you're being hustled for money, for time, for sex, if there's too much too soon, if they're love bombing, if they're telling you that they're in love with you within the first few weeks, these are all red flags. And then introduce them to your friends and family. See how your friends and family, what they think of this person. And of course, a lot of times with these narcissists, the overt ones are very charming. So sometimes it takes a certain form of discernment to see past that. But in general, I would say when you're dating, be aware of the red flags and, do not ignore them. But also realize that you are in a state, when you're fresh out of these relationships, you are in a state of trauma and you are vulnerable, right? So when you're vulnerable, that's when predatory people will take advantage of you. And narcissists and sociopaths are famous for preying on the vulnerable. So, if you had the death of a loved one recently, or if you're in a state of trauma, or if you recently got out of a relationship with an abuser, then the narcissist or sociopath, they can sniff that out. They are attracted and they prey on vulnerable people. So I would say just be very, very careful. Be careful about who you spend your time with, and be careful when you're dating, especially if you're still in a state of trauma. It can be very difficult. And even in the best case scenario, let's say you're dating and you're not with a narcissist, but you're still in that state of trauma, it's going to be very hard for you to trust. But again, trust can be built. The right partner will be able to build the trust by having their actions match their words, and by being a trustworthy person, not because they met you and you're the unicorn, but because of who they are. They're trustworthy because that is who they are. So, these are just some tips. For sure, be very careful when you start dating again. Don't do it too soon. Make sure that you've healed or done a lot of your healing, and, do some work on yourself so that you're not in this state of egregious trauma, which is going to, it's like blood in the water, and the narcissists and sociopaths and sex addicts are sharks, and they're going to smell that blood and they're going to come after you. So be careful. I mean, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just like, you're going to be very vulnerable and you're traumatized. So really important for you to heal that trauma and start developing really clean, healthy boundaries, because that is the antidote to attracting toxic people, is healthy boundaries. And I know, because it's been a very difficult challenge for me, to have healthy boundaries. I know how hard it is. I know how hard it is to even recognize what boundaries are. If you grew up in a family where it was boundaryless, it meshed, there was some toxicity or abuse, or you had a parent that was a narcissist, then you might be codependent. And there is like I said, there's a program for that. You can go to Codependence Anonymous and learn how to do radical self-care, self-love, and to set these like very healthy, clean, beautiful boundaries, and take care of yourself and love yourself, so that you are not going to allow somebody who's toxic, a user, an abuser, even into your space. You're only going to be able to, provide space for somebody who is open-hearted, authentic, honest, kind, considerate, able to build trust, because they're a trustworthy person. So I hope this is very helpful for you. I'm trying to make the videos that you guys asked for. So if there's something specific that you would like me to make a video on, then please, put that in the comments and ask for specific videos. I'd be very happy to sort of tailor them to what you are trying to, improve, learn about, or something that would help you to heal and to grow. Thanks so much. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.